Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Nick again from the Paper Weapon Studios, and today we are going to be learning how to make a paper AK74u that you guys have been asking for about 2 years now. So now I've finally gotten around to it, and I'm happy to do it now. So the three things that you need to make it is paper, scissors, and tape. And then you can use any kind of tape, but I prefer clear tape. That way you can actually make it look neat and it doesn't look as sloppy in my opinion. So what we're going to be doing first is that we're going to be making the outer barrel first. And so we're going to be starting with a long piece of paper, and then we're going to make it probably about a medium-sized tube. Since this is kind of like a small caliber, it's probably not going to be that huge of an outer barrel. So probably around this big, I think. Probably be good. And then we're going to want to tape it in the three places: the front, the middle, and the back. Okay, so once we have this, we're going to want to actually extend this a little bit. So we're going to want another piece of paper, and then you're going to want to make it smaller than this one. And then we're going to fit it into the outer barrel itself. So then we're going to fit it into here, making sure that it is expanding to the right size. That way it's just smaller than the first one. And then we are going to tape it as we pull it out. So we're going to have one on the end, and then tape it on the seam. Okay, so now we have the outer barrel done. Now what we want to do is actually make the body of the gun, which we will start by making long pieces of paper, and I guess we're going to be using long pieces of paper, and then we're going to be making medium-sized tubes, and then you're going to want to make 3 of these. Okay, so once we have the 3 tubes made, we're going to set them aside for right now. And then we're going to actually make the notch, or I guess we're going to cut where the bolt is going to go. So right here you can see that the larger tube, which is going to be the outer tube right here, actually connects with the other one about right here. You can see with all the tape and everything. So what we're going to want to do is actually right on the smaller tube side of the connection, we're going to make probably around, I'd say a 2.5 inch to 3 inch notch, and I'll show you how to do that. So all you're going to do is that start basically 1/2 inch from the seam, like that, and then you're going to want to make another cut about as long as you want your bolt to go back. So right there, that's probably where I want mine to be. Just about. So you can see here that I made 2 notches. Just like that. Now all you do is that you make it the actual chamber, and that way you can load the bullet in right here. So then you just take it out, and then basically you're just like cutting the tube in half at this point. Okay, just take this part off. And it may look a little crappy, but that's okay, because this is all we need, just a little bit of an opening. And then we won't have to worry about the bolt or anything for right now. So then we're going to tape all of these together. Let's see, right about, let's say 4 inches or so from the edge of the actual barrel where the gun is going to shoot out of. So then we're going to have 1 on the bottom and then 2 on the top. So the barrel, the actual barrel, is going to be the 3rd one down, and then making sure that your receiver and your chamber, or whatever you want to call it, is facing outwards. And then you're going to want to tape these all together. I think it's easier to actually tape about 2 together first. So just tape them 2 and 2, and then tape the pairs together. Okay, so once you have the two taped together, you're going to want to actually tape the whole thing together. Remember, keeping the barrel, third one, I guess the second one from the bottom of where the gun is. Okay, so now that you have your gun all taped together, we're going to take a look at it, and basically how it's going to work is that this is how the gun's going to look when you hold it. So basically the stock's going to be back here, and then the actual bolt is going to be right here that you're going to pull back, and then we're going to learn how to do that later. But for right now, I'm going to take a second look at the picture here and make sure that I'm good with what I'm doing. Okay, so then all we're going to do take another piece of paper, and then we're actually going to put it on the outside of these barrels, making sure that we leave enough room. Or I guess we'll cut a hole where the bolt's going to go. So basically, we're going to fold it the hot dog way, the long way, and then we're going to probably leave it like that for now, just once. Okay, so then we're going to want to tape it together, just in about 2 places. And then we're going to want to make another one identical to this one. Alright, so now that you have your 2 pieces of paper here, what we're going to do is that we're actually going to start on the side that doesn't have the bolt on it, or the receiver, I mean. And so we're actually going to tape it onto the top and to the bottom, covering the whole thing, and making sure that it's even on the sides. The reason why I'm covering it with this piece of paper right now is that it'll just add extra support for when we want to put the magazine in, because the AK74u doesn't have a mag well necessarily. All you do is just stick it inside of the gun right below the receiver, so it'll be pretty wobbly, so we'll need all of the support we can get. Okay, so now that you've taped that piece onto the one side, we're going to actually work on the side with the receiver in it. So what we're going to do is that we're going to make sure that we cut a notch for the bolt. So how we're going to do that is that we're going to take it and put it pretty much where we want it, and then we're going to take our scissors and cut it where the barrel is, just about to the size of the barrel, and cut it, let's say, just until the end of your receiver. So probably just around like 3 inches or 4 if you decided to make it larger. Looks like it still has a little bit of weight in it. Okay, so all you did was that you just cut about 4 inches from the end there, and then we're going to tape it onto here just like that. Before all of this, what we're going to want to do is actually cut out the place where the magazine is going to go. So that is going to be, I'm going to take a look at the picture, and then this looks like it's going to be directly behind, just barely where the bolt's going to go. So what we're going to want to do for that is that I think we will forego doing that for just right now. So leave this piece of paper off to the side, because we don't need to tape it on there just yet, and then we're actually going to make the rest of the gun for the stock. So what we're going to be doing now is you're going to make 3 small tubes that are going to fit into the other tubes that aren't the barrel, and then you're just going to fit them into the barrel, and you see how far the barrel juts out right here at the end. Let's see if you can see here. You're just going to want to make it just about as long as that for the rest of the 3. Okay, so once you have all 3 of those taped into it, you're going to want to tape them together, all together, just kind of like you did with the front ones. These can be taped together at any point, it really doesn't matter. Just use one long piece of tape. Okay, And then now we're actually going to cut the mag well for the gun. And then this is actually just going to be probably about half a barrel long. So I'm thinking that you can start just about halfway down from the mag well, towards the rear of the gun of course, and then just cut halfway up the bottom tube. See how I did that there, just kind of like cut it just about halfway, and then we're going to, depending on how big you want your magazine to be, I mean I kind of know how big one's going to be, so I think I'm going to want it just about right here. So you can see how long I made that, just these two marks right here. So then I'm going to cut this across just like we did with the bolt. Okay, so you see, after I cut it out, you can see that it just has a little bit of room in there, so that way when we put our magazine in and then we put all our little accoutrements in there, we'll be able to just click it in there. So you're actually going to want to tape these down and make it look even, so it doesn't have like all those jagged edges from when you cut it with your scissors. Okay. Alright, now what we're going to want to do is actually fit the bolt into this, so just take a regular piece of paper and then you're going to want to make it pretty small, and you can actually measure it in the back of the gun. So we're putting it into the back of the gun, measuring it, and you can see that that looks pretty good for the barrel, or I mean the bolt. Now all you want to do is take this piece of paper that you decided to be the bolt and probably tape it to about 6 inches all the way. Tape it all the way, and try and make it as smooth as of a tape job as possible, because it's actually going to be cycling through the gun when you pull it back and forth, and it'll just be a nuisance if it's all jagged, because then it'll get stuck on stuff all the time. Okay, so then after you got it taped to about right here, you're going to want to take scissors and cut it. So overall, this is how big your bolt's actually going to be. So then you're going to want to insert it through the end of your gun, and then using your pinky to like push it through all the way, and then you can take your scissors and kind of reach in there and take the bolt and pull it through, kind of like I did. And then how we're going to make this with the handle is that we're actually going to take probably just a little bit of a spare piece of paper, or the one that we just used, and then you're going to want to make it into a smaller tube, probably just like this, and then you're going to want to tape it. Probably just about one piece of tape will do. And then just cut it at about 2 inches. So then we're going to be working with this piece right here. Now we're going to want to cut it and butterfly it right here at the seams. So I got one, and then two. So I got the two sides butterflied, so that way it has the little flare outs that you can attach it to the bolt. So that way we're going to do that right now. And make sure that you tape this onto the bolt just about, I'd say, maybe a ½ inch or so behind where the bolt actually enters the front barrel, because then you'll allow it to fully seal into it. If that made any sense, I hope it did. This kind of gets a little tricky, so I'll try to explain it the best I can. And basically all you're going to want to do is make sure that it gets taped onto the bolt itself as it's inside of the chamber, using anything you can to smooth it down or anything. And then you're going to want to take the other side. You can kind of see here how, if I get a close up here, how I kind of taped it on right here where the flare out was onto the bolt itself. And then you're going to want to do the same thing for the other one. And then you actually might want to take your piece of tape and cut it the long way. That way it's a skinnier piece of tape, so you won't have to worry about excess tape. Okay, and then you're going to want to take this little piece of tape you cut off, cut it actually a little small, so then you have a piece of tape just about like this big, and then you're going to want to support where the pieces of tape meet. So then just kind of like tape it where the two pieces of tape are together. So now you have a functioning bolt that you can use. And then I'm thinking that I'm actually going to make another notch right about in here, so that way the bolt can be pulled back farther. So if you can see what I did there, I just made this little notch right here. That way when you pull back the bolt, you'll have more room to put your bullet in. So that was kind of my design flaw. But anyway, and then you can also curve this charging handle however you want to make it. Usually it's like curved forward or whatever, but I'm going to keep it simple for the sake of time. And then we're going to take this, and now we're going to put on our cover. Okay, so you see here that when I was taping it onto here, we're going to have to take some parts off so that we can load the magazine into it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Just cut it to size. And then take this and actually tape it into the mag well. That way it'll be sturdy. Okay, so as you can see, I got this taped on there nicely, and then we left enough room for our magazine. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to focus on making the stock. But first, we're going to have to cover this side, I do believe. Yes, so now we're going to cover this side, and then we're just going to be taking a little bit of a piece of paper, just like we did with the other one, except we're going to make it the other way. So this way, we're going to fold it hamburger way. And then taping it, and then after you've done that, just fit it onto your gun. On the top side, and it looks like mine's a little long, so I'm going to cut it so that it fits. Okay, and then you're just going to want to tape it on there. So now you can see that you've got all this done, you've got all this stuff taped on there, and then eventually we are going to make the little safety, and then we're going to make the handle, but first we're going to make the stock. So you can see that this is the front of the gun, and then this is the back of the gun towards where the bolt is. So there you go, and then so we're going to start making the stock, and this one's actually pretty simple. It's not that hard at all. So basically it's just like two tubes. First one is going to be probably, I don't know, pretty small, not too big. And then this is actually going to go into the barrel itself, the rear part of the barrel. So we're going to measure this out so that it is exactly the diameter of the barrel. So if you can see that here, I'll move this for you. want to measure it like we always have been. And this is also going to act as the blow tube, kind of like I made it in that first video a couple of years ago. Okay, then make sure you pull it out so you have enough room to pull the bolt back. So kind of like measure it yourself, and that way it'll be right where you want it. So now that you have this one in here, you're going to want to tape it onto the gun itself. So you're going to want to just take a couple pieces of tape and tape it on there. And this one is going to stay straight, so you don't have to worry about bending this one, but we will have to worry about bending the other one. So you can see that the rear of the gun here, we're going to make another barrel, or another tube. So then you're going to want to make it roughly the same size. But this time we're actually going to make it so that it bends down. So we'll make it relatively small, just about the same size as the one that we just made. Measure it on the bottom tube. And then we're going to pull it out just barely until it starts to want to come out, and then we're going to want to bend it down, as you can see here. So just like that. And then we're going to want to take a spare piece of paper just like this and then roll it into just a little tube, kind of like this. And then we're actually going to want to fold this in half. So in the end, you're going to want a piece of paper just about like this. Tape it so that it's just one solid piece. Then this is going to be the wedge for that part. If you can see what I mean here. So then just wedge it in between here. That way the angle stays. And then we'll actually bend it to be more extreme. We won't have to worry about that right at the present moment. We just want to make sure that there's still separation as of right now. Just like that for the stock. And then we're going to want to just take another tube. And then you can fold this and make a tube either way. I'm just going to make it the long way. And this can be really any size, but probably small to medium preferably. Just about the same size as these. And then you only have to tape it to about 3 or 4 inches. Go ahead and cut it off about right here. Then we're going to measure it onto the stock. It looks like I did make it a little too big, so then I'm going to take this and cut it to size where I need it to be. Okay. And then just tape the stock parts together. Okay, so now as you can see that this is kind of starting to take some shape. You got the rear stock here, you got the front, so basically this is what it's going to look like in the end. Got the stock going on, and then the blow tube is going to be right here, and then that shoots through the barrel. So how we're going to make the foregrip for this is that we're going to be taking another piece of paper, and then we're going to be folding it the long way, or making a tube the long way. Okay, just about this big, and if you did watch my tutorial on how to make the Olympia, this is how we're going to make the foregrip for this one too. So, we're just going to want to tape it just like a regular tube in 3 places. Okay, and then you're going to want to cut it in the middle, as close as you can to the middle. So that way, if, oh, I was pretty close on that one. So you can see that we have 2 pieces, and then cut them to be equal size. Okay, just like that. And then we're going to actually tape these 2 barrels together, or 2 tubes together. Okay, so once you have these taped together, we're going to put them onto the bottom of the gun, and then it's going to be right at the end where the front tube is, or where the barrel is. So we're going to tape it on here, right on the bottom, and then just put the middle of these 2 tubes right onto the bottom of the gun, so you can kind of see what I mean. Okay, it's kind of hard to see, but like, if you just put it right here, just like on the bottom, and this way it's going to act as a part of the foregrip, just to make it a little bit more realistic, have a better feel for the gun. Then you're going to want to tape it again, just right here. So that way it's just kind of like jutting out from the bottom of the gun right here. And then we're going to be covering it with a piece of paper. So how I'm going to cover this is I'm just going to take a piece of paper just like this. And it looks like we got pretty lucky. That's how, yep, that's exactly how big it is. So we're going to be taking a piece of paper, then we're going to be folding it the hamburger way, the short way. Doing as we've always done, taping it together after we've made it. Okay, so you can see how we have this piece of paper now. Now you're going to want to take your gun, and then you're going to want to just take it, and I think we might even be able to cut it in half, or fold it in half again. I'm thinking here, maybe, but no, I don't think that'll work. So we're actually going to just tape it onto the gun again, but I want to shorten it just a couple inches. So take it and then cut it this way, about 3 inches or so, and then just tape it onto the gun itself, and that way it'll act as our foregrip. Okay, so once you have it taped on there, you'll see that we have our foregrip area for it, but it actually, on a real one, you'll be able to see that it actually kind of comes down right here. So we're going to so after we've done this, after we put the foregrip on, we're actually going to want to cut this to where it's at an angle, just like in a real one. So then you're going to want to start just about like right here, and then cut it, and then making it look. So then you're going to want to tape this all together with a covering piece of paper on it, so that way it doesn't look like crap when you tape it on there. So what I mean by that is that you're going to take this, put the piece of paper over it, and then just tape right over that. Okay, so once you have that part done, we're going to actually add the handle now. So you can see that the handle goes, I mean, if you look at any picture of the AK74u, you can see that the handle is towards the back of the gun, towards the stock. So how we are going to make that is that we're going to take a piece of paper, but we're actually going to make it a tube the short way this time. And actually it's going to be pretty big, so it's going to be a large kind of a tube. So you're probably going to want it about this big or even bigger. Yeah, just about this big. And then you're going to want to tape it just about halfway down. And then you're going to want to cut it off about 3/4 down, or maybe even halfway. Just to kind of like that, just like that. Then you're going to end up with a piece just about this big. Now, how I actually fit it onto the gun is, it's not that tricky, but all you want to do is that you're going to want to start with one end, and then you're going to make 2 notches on each side, just about like 1 inch along for each. So you can kind of see what I did there. All I did was made it so that it has flare outs like that. And then, actually that's a little uneven, so we're going to make it even here. Okay, then you're going to flip it over and do the same thing for the other side. So that way you actually have a way to attach it onto the gun. So, I'm going to show you how that works right here. So you can see that I'm going to attach it onto the gun just about like this. And then a way that you can actually make it so that it's back a little bit like a real one, all you have to do is, you know, these little flare outs that we made, make one of them a little bit longer than the other. Not a ton longer, but maybe just like 1/4 of an inch. And then take the one that's longer and put it towards the back of the gun. And then that way you can see that it's slanted. And now just tape it onto the flare outs. Okay, so you can see basically all I did was that I taped the flare outs onto the gun underneath on both sides and then onto the side there. So how we're actually going to make this look a little bit more realistic is that you're going to want to take it and then cut it to where it looks level first. So just take about that much off of it, and then we're going to make something to actually go inside of it. So then you're going to want to take a piece of paper just about like this, or you can start with a new fresh piece of paper, and then we're going to fit it inside like we have been for all sorts of other tubes. And so you're going to want to fold it, or make a tube just like this, fit it inside of the handle, making sure that it expands. Okay, and then once you've done that, you're going to want to cut it off right about here. So you can see that I left just a little bit right here. So then you're going to want to take it out and tape it just the way it is. And then how I usually do this is that I'm going to make this flat, and then I'm going to cut one side of the seam, and then I'm going to cut another side right on the outside. So you can see that now we can fold this into itself. So you can see that right here, right at the bottom. So you can fold it, and then take another piece of tape, and then just tape this down. And then all you do is that you're going to insert it back into the handle, and that way it makes it look more realistic with the nice little look to it. So then we're just going to tape that onto the handle. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the trigger, which is basically the easiest thing on it to make. And then we're going to take a piece of paper kind of like this, and we're going to make it into a very thin tube. You want to flatten the tube out and then tape it. You only have to tape it about halfway. Okay, so then once you've taped it, just cut it off at about halfway. And then it looks like that the AK74u had a squarish trigger guard, so then we're going to actually bend it right here, leaving just about 1.5 inches of space in between each fold. And it's actually kind of more rectangular, making it as pretty much as even as possible. And then you're going to want to tape it directly onto the gun. Of course, the part that has the break onto the top of the gun actually taped onto it, and you'll see what I mean here. So then you're going to want to take your gun and then just put one side onto the handle. You can see all I'm doing is just taping it, this part onto the gun itself. And then all we're going to do to make the trigger is just take an extra piece of paper, or just make a little piece of paper just like this. Fold it so that it's about the size of a trigger. Kind of fold it just like this, tape it, leave a little room for flare outs. And then you're going to want to butterfly it again, that way you can tape it onto the gun. So you can see here that I made the little flare outs, and that way you can just tape it right onto the gun. Right where the trigger needs to go, and then you can bend it so that it looks like a trigger. There you go. And then just take 2 pieces of tape, put it on each of the flare outs, and then just tape it right onto the gun. And okay, so you got your trigger done, just like that. And now we're actually going to work on the magazine, and this is probably the most difficult part, so I think that I'm going to cut this video off, unfortunately, and then I'm going to have to make a second really short video, so because it's reaching just about an hour here. So I'm going to try to cut it down to about hopefully 40 minutes or so, maybe even 35 or 30, I hope. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.